Okay, so today we're going to take a deep dive into EV batteries.
Yeah.
It's a space where there's really like big money, huge personalities, and a ton of innovation. So consider this like your cheat sheet to understanding what's what.
Well, I think what's really interesting here is that you've got this very public kind of clash of the titans. You've got Elon Musk on one side and then Robin Zeng, who is the founder of CATL. And they have very different approaches, not just to battery technology,
Yeah.
but also business strategy.
Yeah, and it's actually gotten kind of heated between the two. Zhang basically came out and said that Musk doesn't even know how to make a battery. He
Yes.
publicly criticized Tesla's 4680 battery tech and predicted it's going to fail. So for investors, that should raise some red flags. It definitely makes you want to take a closer look.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when you've got the world's largest EV battery manufacturer, throw in shade,
Yeah.
it makes you pay attention.
Exactly. And that's CATL, right?
Exactly.
They're supplying everyone from Tesla to like every other major car company.
Yeah, they're everywhere.
Okay, so before we get into the specifics of this battery battle royale, maybe it would be helpful just to do like a super quick refresher on battery basics.
Yeah, that's a good point. For those who haven't been following every single battery development that's happened,
Right.
it's good to kind of level set.
Yeah, help us understand what we're looking at when we talk about EV batteries.
So at the heart of everything is the lithium-ion battery. It's what is currently dominating the EV market. And essentially, lithium ions move between a positive and negative electrode to create the electrical current to power a car.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But even within that lithium-ion world, there are different chemistries.
Yeah.
Right? And they all have like pros and cons.
Exactly. Yeah.
So like, what are we talking about there?
So you've got Tesla, for instance. They use a variety of lithium-ion chemistries. In their higher-end models, they like to go for nickel, cobalt, aluminum, or NCA, or nickel, manganese, cobalt, which is NMC. And the reason for that is because those chemistries pack a lot of energy. So that translates into a longer range for those vehicles, which,
Right.
As any seasoned investor knows, that's a major selling point for a luxury EV.
Right, got to cater to that premium market.
Yeah.
But I know Tesla also uses lithium iron phosphate batteries in some of their like more affordable models.
Yeah.
So why the different approach there?
Yeah, so LFP batteries are known for their safety and longevity, which makes them really good options for the mass market, where cost effectiveness and reliability are key.
Interesting. So even within the same company, you're going to see them making these different battery choices based on, who they're selling to. And I guess that balance between performance cost and safety.
Exactly. It's a really complex equation that balances all those factors. And that's what makes this whole Tesla versus CATL debate so interesting, because they're taking very different paths within that same lithium-ion world.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get into that. Let's talk about these two different approaches and what it means for investors.
Sounds good. So Tesla is placing a pretty big bet on their 4680 battery. It's this new type of cylindrical cell that they claim is going to completely change the game. And they're really emphasizing this dry electrode technology and structural integration as kind of their key innovations.
Okay, so hold on for a sec. For those of us who aren't battery engineers, what is dry electrode technology?
It's really about simplifying the manufacturing process. So traditionally, battery production involves this really messy, energy-intensive wet coating process. And dry electrode tech kind of aims to eliminate that by using a powder-based process. And the hope is that it'll reduce production costs and make it a lot easier to scale up production.
Gotcha, but hasn't Tesla actually been having trouble doing that, scaling up the 4680? I feel like that's a big part of Zhang's criticism.
Yeah, absolutely. He definitely hit a nerve there. Tesla has had some challenges scaling up production, and that's led to delays and questions about whether they can actually meet their targets.
Right. Okay. So then what about this structural integration thing? How does that fit in?
That's really kind of a radical idea. They're basically integrating the battery pack directly into the structure of the car. So it actually becomes a load-bearing component of the vehicle. And that could potentially simplify the car's design, reduce weight, and make the whole thing more efficient.
That sounds pretty innovative, but also kind of risky. What happens if something goes wrong with the battery? Aren't you talking about a major repair job?
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. It's this bold move with potential benefits, but also significant risks. And I think that's where Zhang's critique is really important. He's not just questioning the technology itself. He's questioning Tesla's ability to actually execute on this plan.
Yeah.
Because it's so complex and ambitious.
Right. Okay. So meanwhile, CATL is taking a totally different approach. What's their strategy?
So they're focusing on what they call chemistries of the future. They're heavily invested in lithium iron phosphate batteries, which we talked about earlier, but they're also pushing the boundaries with this new M3P technology.
M3P. Okay, you got to tell us more about that. What is it and what makes it so special?
So it's a bit of a mystery, to be honest. CATL hasn't released all the technical details, but from what we know, it's this lithium manganese iron phosphate chemistry, and they say it can deliver greater energy density than traditional LFP batteries.
Interesting. So that means like potentially longer range
Yeah.
and faster charging.
Exactly.
Okay, so if they can pull that off while still keeping the safety and longevity of LFP, that could be a game changer for them, right?
Absolutely. A huge win. And it's not just about the chemistry. CATL is also leading the way in cell-to-pack technology, which allows them to pack battery cells more efficiently. And that leads to higher energy density and just better use of space.
So it sounds like they're kind of playing the long game here. Like, let's focus on proven technologies, refine them, scale up production, and then come out with a really superior product.
Yeah, it's a classic strategy. And it's been working really well for them. They're not flashy, but they're quietly becoming like a dominant force in this whole market.
Yeah, but for investors, the question is which approach is going to pay off more? Is Tesla's like disruptive innovation going to be a better bet? Or is it CATL's steady execution?
Yeah. And that's the million-dollar question.
Right.
So with Tesla, it's always been high risk, high reward. Their stock price is famous for being volatile. And their success hinges on their ability to actually deliver on these ambitious promises.
Yeah, but if they can pull it off, the potential upside is huge.
Yeah.
They could really like revolutionize the industry with the 4680.
That's true. But they could also stumble. The risks are very real. Production challenges, unproven technology, fierce competition, these are all things that investors really have to think about.
Yeah. Okay, so then let's talk about CATL from an investor's perspective.
Yeah.
What are we looking at in terms of risks and rewards?
So with CATL, I think you have a different kind of opportunity. They're more of an established player. They have a proven track record. Their focus is on those proven technologies and that steady growth. And that might be more appealing to some investors.
Yeah.
Especially those who don't want as much volatility.
Right. But they're not immune to risk either, especially when you consider, the geopolitical tensions between the U.S. and China. That could have a huge impact on them, right?
Absolutely. You've got the trade war, tariffs, and this big push in the U.S. to make their own batteries domestically. All those things could really create some headwinds for CATL.
Right. And let's not forget the competition. Everyone's trying to get into the EV battery market, so CATL can't just rest on their laurels.
Yeah, they have to keep innovating to stay on top.
Okay, so we've got these two very different companies, each with their own risks and rewards. So as a seasoned investor, what advice would you give to our listeners? It's a tough choice, right? Where do you think the smart money's going?
Yeah, it is a tough one for sure.
Right.
It really depends on your investing style, I guess.
Okay.
And how much risk you're willing to take on. So if you're okay with things being a little more volatile and you really believe in Tesla and their ability to disrupt the market, then maybe going with the 4680 makes sense for you.
Yeah, they definitely have a history of proving people wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
But for investors who are maybe looking for something a little bit more stable, CATL's steady growth and market dominance might be a better fit.
Yeah, they're the leader right now, and their tech is in millions of EVs already. But it's important to remember that even with CATL, there are still those risks we talked about, especially those geopolitical ones.
Right, like those trade tensions tariffs.
Yeah.
And, the U.S. wanting to make their own batteries here.
Yeah.
It could all affect CATL's growth.
For sure.
So it's even if they're playing it safe on the tech side, there's this whole other layer of uncertainty from the political stuff.
Yeah, you can't ignore that.
Okay.
But honestly, what I find really interesting about this whole thing is that this rivalry between Tesla and CATL is actually good for the entire industry.
How so?
Well, it's pushing everyone to innovate faster. They're investing more in R&D, and they're coming up with better solutions.
Yeah, that's a good point. Competition usually does lead to innovation.
Right.
And in this case, it benefits everyone.
Exactly. Consumers and investors.
Right.
The EV battery market is becoming so dynamic.
It's a pretty exciting time.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so for our listeners today, what's the key takeaway? What should they be thinking about when they're making investment decisions in this market?
I think the most important thing is to stay informed. This is not a market where you can just buy and forget about it. Things change all the time. New technologies pop up. The competition is always shifting.
You got to stay on top of it.
Yeah, you got to do your research, track the latest developments, and don't be afraid to adjust your portfolio as things change.
And it's not just about the big players.
Oh, definitely not.
You got to keep an eye on those smaller companies, too, the up-and-comers.
Yeah, they could be the ones who come up with the next big breakthrough.
So for all you seasoned investors out there, what does this all mean for you? It means understanding the tech trends, the competition, and the geopolitical risks. All those things that are shaping the EV battery market.
It's about seeing the big picture. This whole transition to electric vehicles, battery technology is driving it all. And the companies that can figure out how to make batteries cheaper, more powerful, and safer, they're going to be the ones who win.
And for smart investors, that's a huge opportunity.
The chance to be part of something big.
To support the companies that are building the future.
Yeah, exactly.
So stay curious, keep learning. This is just the beginning of the EV battery revolution.
Definitely. It's going to be interesting to see what happens